For the next part of our program, we are very excited to hear more about our Rise Up National LGBTQ Activist Conference that just concluded over a week ago. We are joined by Rebecca York, SMYAL's Community Engagement and Youth Leadership Manager, and Sanjna Kaul, 2020 Rise Up Conference participant and president of her high school Gender and Sexuality Alliance. Please join me in welcoming them both. Thank you. Rebecca, I'm wondering, can you tell us about the conference, how it came about, the structure, and what were the outcomes?
Yeah, so the Rise Up Conference was our way of meeting the current moment. Obviously, we couldn't do our regular activist camp programming. Usually it's a 4-day, 3-night in-person event. That was out. So we figured, okay, we'll adjust. There was youth organizing, again, was at the center of our national conversation. We were watching folks take to the streets in defense of racial justice and equity and all of those things. And we really wanted a program that could reflect all of that and build on it, build on that energy. So we developed Rise Up. It's a week-long curriculum, 36 hours of programming across 2 different platforms for youth 13 to 24. And we covered everything from the basics of what are the LGBTQ terms? How does that look like? What are the basic things you can do in your schools? All the way to what does it look like to actually start organizing in your community? What are tools that you can use? What are theories that you can use to inform your organizing that are rooted in leading organizing theory today? So it was really exciting. We had over 300 registrations for the conference, and Sanjna will tell you more, but it was just, from our perspective, a huge success for our first virtual conference.
That's super awesome. That's super awesome. Sanjna, I think it is so awesome that you are president of your Gender and Sexuality Alliance at your high school. And in fact, I was president of mine, except back then they were called Gay Straight Alliances, and this was in the dark ages of the early 2000s. But it is so great to see that that kind of work continues on, and in particular, I'm sure it is very challenging in this current environment. My first question for you is, can you tell me why you signed up for the Rise Up conference, and if just how did that compare to experiences you have had before? Did it meet expectations? We'd just love to hear about your experience with the conference.
Yeah, so I actually heard about the Rise Up conference through an ad I saw on Instagram. I didn't know what SMYAL was. I'd never heard of SMYAL before. I didn't know what Rise Up was until I saw that ad, but I saw that it said it's a conference for queer and trans youth organizers, and I found out about it at a time where I felt kind of stuck in the activism that I was trying to do, because school was out, nobody was allowed to meet anywhere, so I couldn't really bring the change that I wanted to, that started early on in the year while I was at home during this pandemic. So I signed up for the conference because I thought it might help me figure out how to kind of get out of that rut that I was in, and also just in general provide me with strategies that I can use in the future as I continue on with my activism. And also, I had nothing else to do, so I didn't expect that much because I didn't know what it was going to be. The small seminars that I'd done earlier were very surface level conversation and were not that interesting, so I was worried that that might happen with this one, but then I joined it and it was so intensive, and I learned so many things every single day that I had never even heard of before, like transformative justice and healing justice, and all these deep dives into the specifics of activism and also the specific different ways that we can fight for justice in our own communities. So I loved my experience, and I learned so much, and it's kind of reshaped all my thinking about my activism from now on.
That's so great to hear. One of my earliest experiences myself as a member of my GSA was to go to a conference similar to the type that SMYAL did, and just knowing those lessons that you take back. Is there anything in particular based on the activism that you're planning on doing in the next year? Any particular lesson from the conference that you'd love to share with us?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I felt kind of stuck with my activism, and I think that was partially because I was kind of looking at it in a linear way. Like first I contact the teachers, and then if that works out, I go to maybe the principal. But a particular workshop at the Rise Up conference, the power mapping workshop, really helped me to see all, like in any forum, any project, activism project that I'm doing, there's so many different pathways I can achieve the same thing. Like say I go to the principal, that doesn't work out, I can then go talk to the parents, or I can convince the students to like sign a petition. So by literally like visualizing all those different pathways that I could kind of use, and I could work around the current situation that we're in, it really helped me feel a lot more motivated in the activism that I've been trying to do. And yeah.
Great, thank you. And as a reminder, we are also taking questions for both Rebecca and Sanjna about the Rise Up conference, so feel free to let us know. I actually have a question for Rebecca. I know you're not expecting this, but Rebecca, I'm wondering if there are things that you've learned based on the conference that you're going to incorporate into the work, both for our next conference in future, but also for SMYAL's work writ large, because you all have the opportunity to work with youth across the country. So I'm wondering if there are big takeaways from your end.
There are. So like you, Raffi, my first experience with conferences was through my high school GSA. And I remember it as being this life-changing in-person experience. But it was a really wonderful reminder that we can still foster those spaces virtually. I think that's something that every group that does in-person gatherings is really grappling with, is can we make this happen online? The answer is yes. And I think one of the other things that I'm really taking away is by opening it up to this national scale, we're getting young people who really, they're self-selecting, they want to do that deep dive. And it's not that they're just dropping in and saying, I sort of heard about that, not really sure. They're there, they want to learn about organizing. So we can bring all of the knowledge that our staff has, that our community of organizers has, and we can distill it into these manageable chunks and debrief it and bring the things that otherwise would be siloed in an academic classroom into the living rooms of high schoolers across the country, which is pretty incredible.
That's great. That's great. I have two questions from the audience. First for Sanjna, and I realize this is probably something that you're still mulling over yourself, so no pressure, but folks are curious about what are your plans after high school? What did you tell your friends and peers about the conference? How are you going to take this these lessons post high school? But again, no pressure, because I remember I didn't really know what I was going to be doing, even it felt at the end of senior year.
So I've always been really interested in theater. So right now I'm planning to go to get a BA in theater or musical theater. I've always thought of doing queer studies or gender studies as a minor, but since the conference, specifically since that power mapping workshop, like thinking about like how I can think of activism as a project and as strategies and so much more organized than I've always thought about it, it just made me think that I can continue doing this. I can always do this. So now I'm really like deciding between whether I want to major in theater or whether I want to major in queer studies. But whatever the case, I definitely plan to be involved in some way, whether that be like in local organizations and SMYAL or anything like that. And what was the other question?
And just in terms of what did you share? Have you shared already with your friends and classmates about the conference, if anything? Have you already been spreading the word?
Yeah, I remember talking to one of my friends after the conference, and we were talking about politics and just what's going on right now. And I remember going on this tangent about trying to explain what transformative justice is and power mapping. And it was so interesting to think about it because I've never heard of it before. So I was trying to like kind of like explain it in some coherent way to my friend because we were both so excited about that. And yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna be trying to like explain to my friends about what this is and getting them excited about it as well.
That's awesome. Thank you. And the last question we have from the audience, Rebecca, multiple people have asked us, how are we getting to more youth during this social distance time? Sanjna just mentioned that she saw you know, an Instagram ad about our conference. What other methods are we using to get to folks?
Yeah, so this has been a really fun opportunity for us on staff to explore other methods. In person, we typically relied on word of mouth more than anything else. Young people listen to other young people and then they come to us. We are being really diligent right now about reaching out to our partners nationally for as long as we're doing this national virtual work. We have partners across the country who aren't in the same place as us, where they're not necessarily able to provide the same level of programming online. So we're tapping into the youth that they have. They have massive networks of their own specific to various populations that we're able to say, what do you want to see in these programs? Do you want to share it with your youth? We are doing the biggest social media pushes we've ever done. We threw hundreds of dollars behind social media advertising for Rise Up and it paid off. So we're getting really creative with what that looks like. We're getting our youth staff members on board to start working more intensely with our Instagram account to really start pulling more folks in that way as well. And then beyond that, we are reaching out to our own networks. A lot of us are still relatively close to the youth age range. And so we know a lot of people who are new teachers, they're doing other work in communities, and we're reaching out to them and saying, hey, you work at a library. Can you post a flyer? Here's the graphic. Like, are you able to print that out and put it right by your circulation desk if you're open? So we're really trying to tap into everything possible. But if you all have more ideas, we are always welcome to, or happy to try other things out too.
Well, I would like to thank both of you for sharing about this incredible conference. Frankly, I'm a little jealous. I wish I could transport myself back in time, or maybe stay in this time, but be a youth again. And Sanjna in particular, we just are so proud of you. And we know you're going to be doing incredible things wherever life takes you, and we will be rooting for you. So thank you both for sharing those experiences.